Welcome to the Geekcentric podcast, and welcome to our watch club for Marvel's Secret Invasion. Imagine a world where information can't be trusted. Not very hard, is it? Welcome to Watch Club. My name is Nate, and this is our Watch Club for Marvel's Secret Invasion, Episode 1, titled Resurrection, directed by Ali Selim. If you're joining us for the first time, this is Watch Club, our weekly review series. It's kind of like a book club, but way better. Keep in mind, we will be going into full spoilers for this series and the MCU in general, so if you haven't watched this week's episode, this premiere episode yet, be sure to do so, and then come right back in a snap. Now, before we reveal our true forms, let me introduce you to my fellow Skrull. Joining me today, beaming down from high up there, we have a Daryl, a Donovan, and now a delightful young man. He's Darcy, the green-lovin' Hudson.
Yeah, still coming to terms with that intro for this watch club, I guess.
I'll start changing up the names.
Donovan, okay.
I'll get you more D names. I'll see how many I can
Please
figure
do.
out.
Yeah, I want to see how far you can take this.
We'll have to find some more humans. You know, right into the show, if you're a human, you want Darcy to take your mind and your name. And
okay, no, I don't want to be on board for this. I don't like this
anymore. He's one
anymore.
of the good Skrulls, I guess. Darcy, it's great to be back with another Watch Club. This is our 18th Watch Club, by the way, which is pretty dope.
Yeah,
I was going to say nuts and dope, and I said note. This is where we are at this point in the game here. But, we're back with a Marvel series. This show is very different from what we've seen before, reminding me a lot of how Andor was different with Star Wars, and I think a lot of people are saying that, and I think this is a different pace for the series. What are you thinking so far?
Well, again, I'm loving the fact that the stakes are laid out right in the first scene, and then they continue going at on Octane. It's just such a fast ride to get through this spy thriller, and I'm loving it. It's like you said, it's such a unique direction for Marvel to take. Again, kind of proving that when they take a chance, like Werewolf by Night being very of its own genre and being so well, this when they're fully leaning into the spy thriller, and I think it's paying off so far. Definitely.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where I'm hoping this sort of. And we'll get to, obviously, the biggest thing that happens in the episode, at the end of this Watch Club. But I think that in itself, and then just sort of, I think, going back to the mentality of Winter Soldier, and as you're saying, this very genre-specific storytelling, I'm hoping that we get to see more of that from Marvel. I'd love to see them explore even further into other realms of genre storytelling, because I think that's when we're getting the most freshness at this point in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But listen, before one of us is revealed to be a traitor, obviously it would be Darcy. Let's get into. See, he's trying to be all nice and I would never take another Donovan or whatever.
This is just a stone person not knowing how to react to being accused of something like that, man.
That's too chill. That's what it is. Too chill. Sure. That's what he wants you to think. But let's get into this episode, which begins in present-day Moscow, where we see a rather nervous Everett Ross sneaking through the dark as we hear Agent Prescott asking us to imagine a world where information can't be trusted. It's then revealed that he's talking to Ross, who pushes back on all of his theories that the 5 global terrorist strikes are all from the same entity, an architect in the tension, he says, not people, but Skrulls. And he reminds Ross that Carol Danvers and Nick Fury promised them they'd find them a new home 30 years ago, but now they don't want any planet, the Skrulls. They want our planet. As Ross continues to rebuke Prescott, he says that if he's going to contact Nick Fury, he needs evidence, and Prescott hands Ross the evidence to prove the next big attack, and then proceeds to attack him. After a struggle, Ross shoots Prescott and begins to make his escape. He then realizes he's being followed, and the chase begins until he attempts to jump off a roof and doesn't quite make it, falling almost to his death until Maria Hill approaches him, telling his pursuer to put his hands up and then we see the pursuer shapeshift into Talos, and that that he wasn't chasing Ross, but rather a Skrull who then proceeds to die. So, Darcy, what did you think of this opener and how it sort of sets the tone for the series?
Again, I think I love it because they lay out right in Agent Prescott's whole spiel, paints exactly the threat that these shapeshifters can be and how they can be hiding in plain sight. The ones you most love could be the ones who could stab you in the back and everything like that. And that immediately tells you that these Skrulls aren't the refugees that we knew from Captain Marvel looking for a new home. Time has passed, and of course with time, resentment will stew and linger and sometimes fester into this rebellion. So I think it's a great way of catching up after what would be like 30 years since they came to Earth. So yeah, again, loved how it sets up the whole timeline almost for where this is happening.
Yeah, and I think it's to that point on timeline. I think it's pretty fantastic the way that it sort of just thrusts you into this situation. You're not, it's something that's been going on for 30 years, and it's been part of this canon, but just hidden in the background, which is so perfect because the Skrulls are hidden. But I love the exchange between Maria and Talos where he says, where she says, he was one of you. And he says, nah, he's one of them. I think it just sets up the understanding that just like humans, like you're saying, there are good humans and there are bad humans, and not all of them share the same ideologies or morals, and that's very much what's happening with the Skrulls. Prescott giving a very what's his name from Always Sunny? He's,
Charlie Day.
A very Charlie Day, that meme situation. He's looking even down to like the tie and the shirt. I was just like, oh my gosh, this is gonna
it took me a second watch to realize that was Beric Dondarrion himself from Game of Thrones, and I'm just like, he was too crazy for me to even notice that first time through. He was so selling that there's a conspiracy, man, there's aliens running the country. Like, I loved it.
Well, it's good to know that he'll probably just be revived. He'll come back again after he's been shot.
I don't think he has that luck in this universe.
Maybe not in this universe. And then I guess when for you watching it at least the first time, when did you clock that Ross was a Skrull? Was there a moment prior to the reveal, or were you just kind of like, were you shocked?
Something was always fishy because, I mean, he dealt with the events of Wakanda Forever and what happened in that movie. And the fact that he's seen so much crap right now, I don't think he'd be the type of guy to say no. He would say, okay, let's see a bit more. And like the fact that he was shooting him down even after getting a lot of this evidence without seeing like that physical tablet or whatever, I don't know. Something about that was very fishy to me.
Yeah, I think it was interesting because the moment for me when he gets hit by the car, I was like, he would not get up so fast from getting hit by a car.
Didn't even think of that.
And you see him also running up the stairs, and I love that shot, by the way. Like, kudos to the cinematography in this show, because that shot of just the building, and you just see the each window like lighting up from floor to floor, but it goes faster and faster, and I'm like, there's no way he could run that fast. And then that splat sound, dude. When he hits the ground, I was just like, oh my gosh, I felt so horrible for him, but instantly relieved when it wasn't actually Ross.
Yeah. I mean, I think what's cool about this scene is, like, again, being a comic book fan, in the original Secret Invasion, because it was unlike this show, it was the heroes were the ones who the Skrulls were imitating and replicating, and that's where the whole conundrum came from. But one of the first things that clued off all the heroes is the fact that Elektra dies and shifts into a Skrull, and that was the one moment where they realized that you can't trust anybody. And I feel like that's what this Everett's death in this series is meant to imply, is that we all love him as an audience like that, and you don't want to question him, but you should be questioning everyone now.
Yeah, you don't want to instantly,
you can't trust anything.
You don't want to instantly, like, it's Bilbo Baggins here. He's the nicest guy in the world. You don't want to just instantly shut him down. So yeah, no, absolutely. Now, I did want to kind of get into the opening credits and just talk a little bit about it. It's a bit of controversy going on. I'm not sure if you've seen, Darcy, but I have an article from Polygon here. Yes, Secret Invasion's opening credits scene is AI made. This is from Zasha Millman, who reports that in an interview with director Ali Selim, quote, when we reached out to the AI vendors, that was part of it. It just came right out of the shape-shifting Skrull world identity, who did this, who is this, says Selim. And I think, there's a lot of controversy with this in terms of the fact that it is AI art. Marvel's had its fair share of controversy in terms of, the proper payment for its VFX artists. And, this is just something that from a standpoint of with the writer's strike going on, there's this sort of area of the industry of just pay the people that are making this stuff. And so a lot of people are pretty upset about this opener. I will say thematically, I think it does make sense. I think the idea of, the video of sort of all these people, different aspects about them are changing shape. Their ears are slightly changing shape as you look at them. If you've ever had the chance to watch an AI created video, I will say, unlike, AI art, I think, and it will probably be like 2 weeks from now, like by the time this is posted, what I'm saying will be outdated, but because that's how fast it's freaking growing. But AI video doesn't look like it could replace video. It kind of looks like it is its own style in a way. So I completely understand the aspect of like, no. Humans should have created this opener, should have created the art for it. But as far as the stylistic choice of having things constantly shifting and eyes getting slightly bigger and smaller, in an interesting way, that's kind of that's the limit of the technology. That's sort of added to the idea of, you don't know who to trust. Everything's constantly shifting. What are your thoughts, Darcy, on this AI opener?
I mean, I didn't know it was AI. That whole conversation is something that I don't even know how I feel yet. It's very weird. I mean, talking with Justin, who works in the industry, he's even talked about how it can be useful, but also incredibly harmful. So again, don't know how I feel about that. The opener, though, I do enjoy, like you were saying, that shifting and amorphic qualities to these pictures and characters kind of lends into that uncanny value, like building this distrust in like everything you see, because like you'll be like, oh, that looks like Samuel L. Jackson, but then the next like it shifts a bit, and you're like, oh, but does it? Is it him?
Right.
Like it gives you that mistrust of all these characters we already know, and so I do enjoy that like that spin you get from this opening
right.
scenes.
I think we see there's moments where you see characters in Russia that are consistently changing, obviously with this episode and this series taking place in Russia. I think we see cops at one point, just a whole lineup of cops that are all Skrulls, and yeah, it's intriguing. There is a shot of the White House as well, and it stays white, which is interesting. There's a big cloud of green that kind of goes over top of it. But we'll talk about maybe the president a little bit later, because I have some thoughts about that guy. But let's keep going here. We continue as we hear a boom and a beam of light coming down as we see Nick Fury back on Earth. He stumbles forward until he's met by Maria Hill, who welcomes him back to Earth, and the two embrace in a hug. Back at Hill's apartment, Fury immediately heads upstairs to see Talos, who's standing next to a plant from his homeworld, which he has with him as a reminder of his now-deceased wife, Soren. Fury apologizes to Talos for his loss, and after a brief moment of tenderness, Fury snaps back into business, asking about Gravik. Talos tells Fury that after the blip, he was different, and that he disappeared along with Carol and Gaia, Talos' daughter. Talos mentions he was kicked off the council and pushed into exile, but Gravik took Nick's abandonment personally. So something I noticed, sort of watching the episode the second time, is he's struggling to walk on his right leg. Nick Fury is. As soon as he gets off the ship, was he injured? And I think the other thing to question is that moment of tenderness between him and Talos. Do you think that it was uncharacteristic of Nick Fury, or do you think his relationship with Talos justifies how he responds to the conversation about Soren?
Well, first on the leg thing, I think that guy's been around for so long. He's seen so many battles. I wouldn't be surprised if he has an old wound that after being in, reduced gravity or, even weightless up in space. I'm not sure how Saber runs with their gravity systems. They don't go into that detail really. So, coming back to space, you would have experienced, bone density loss and all the stuff that astronauts do deal with coming back after stints on the International Space Station. So I feel like that might be a bit of it, is that this wound is aggravated by his return to full gravity. But on the comment of his their touching reunion, I think it makes sense. I mean, think about it. They first met each other 30 years ago, and if they've been working closely for at least 20 of those before everything went crazy with the Avengers and stuff like that, like these guys have been around the block for a few times probably. So I feel like that it makes sense that this is probably the only person that Nick Fury can trust, really.
Interesting. Yeah, I see. I'm watching it and I'm like, yo, Nick's being real soft right now. Like, is Nick Fury a softie like this? And then that starts getting my speculation brain going. And then I'm like, okay, so is this is this a Skrull that was injured escaping from Saber, who got shot in the leg by Nick Fury, right? Which, like, at first you're kind of thinking, like, well, why would he pretend to care about Talos or Hill or any of them? And then, remember, in this episode, we do see Skrulls taking the memories and the minds of people. What if this is like a commentary on, like, there's a lot of stories about spies who have to become Americans, or and they sort of
sleeper agents.
Yeah, but then their minds start messing with them because they fall so in love with their persona that they've created. I'm wondering if this is maybe like a story about a character, a Skrull, who is confused and actually believes that they are Nick Fury. Maybe I'm reaching here. I don't know. But, like,
I mean, that'd be a crazy way to take this whole series. I was hoping that Nick Fury is the only person you think that isn't a Skrull.
Yeah.
Like, I don't even think Talos is Talos. That's honestly, I'm leaning more that way than Nick Fury, not Nick Fury type thing.
But it's just like, because in that scene with the plant, Talos says it's changed.
Is it Talos or Talos?
Talos,
by the way.
Talos.
I think they say it both ways.
Depends on if you're in...
It's Han or Han all over again.
If you're in Britain, I think it's Talos. But no, I think it. There's that moment when he says it's changed since she planted it. It's adapted to the planet, and then he says, "Yeah, well, you always believed that was possible." And in my mind, I'm like thinking, like, okay, is this him sort of saying, like, it isn't possible to adapt? I don't know. Anyways, I'm really trying to stretch this idea that he's a Skrull.
Yeah, apparently. I'm hoping Nick Fury is just Nick Fury, please.
Yeah, this is a story about Nick Fury. I mean,
yes.
After seeing him in No Way Home and then getting through that whole movie, and then by the end of it, you're like, wait, what? All right, back with Maria at the dinner table. Her and Talos catch Nick up to speed, letting him know that Gravik is the newest member of the Skrull Council, and that he's radicalizing young displaced Skrulls hiding in abandoned nuclear plants across Russia. He plans to create a false war between Russia and America, forming a shell terrorist group called the AAR, Americans Against Russia, which I think right now all Americans, I think a lot of Canadians, a lot of people are against Russia in our real world. But Talos tells Nick that if Gravik succeeds, then the human race will cease to exist because America and Russia having nukes and what have you. Physically angered by this, Nick abruptly stands up, grabs his coat, and leaves for a walk. Back at the White House, we see James Rhodes informing President Ritson that Nick Fury has left Saber and that both Hill and Fury are effectively AWOL, and the president tells Rhodes to get on it. Just before we continue, quick note on the president of the United States here, played by Dermot Mulroney. Kevin Feige, I don't know if you saw this, Darcy, came out in an interview with Entertainment Weekly and recently confirmed around the change of Captain America Brave New World that Thaddeus Ross will be the president of the United States in that film. So my question for you, Darcy, is does President Ritson simply die in this show, or could he possibly be a Skrull, and that's why they have to replace him by the end of the show?
That's interesting. I mean, he could easily die. I could see that happening. He's easily a target of interest for this whole worldwide debacle that the Skrulls are trying to manipulate into happening. This World War III almost, to leave it a nuclear wasteland that they can turn into new Skrullos or whatever. So that could easily happen, or it could just be maybe people don't like his actions, the way he handles this whole secret invasion, and then they boot him out.
Oh.
And Thaddeus Ross uses that as a platform for his election campaign.
Right.
I don't know, maybe something like that.
You
Maybe
don't
not
want this guy as your president.
So
Yeah. he let the Skrulls invade, and
yeah, stuff like that. Maybe that's the way.
That's
they
very
go.
possible. It's just like, I think later in the episode we do hear that Sonya mentions that Skrulls are sort of putting themselves in positions of power all around the world. So, I think the White House makes sense. But as I was mentioning earlier in the opening credits, the White House stays white. It doesn't go green. It doesn't turn into a green building like all the other buildings in the opening credits. So I'm wondering, maybe that's them sort of foreshadowing, hey, no. The president stays not a Skrull, and I don't know. We'll see. Okay, let's keep going here. Then, while out for his walk, Nick passes by a couple macking it up. They're just making out, and then creepily the woman stares at him. Like if I was watching some people make out like that, and then one of them looked at me, I'm not gonna keep looking at them, but Nick does. And then a little girl comes over, and she's got like this little ball, and he's like, "What the heck's a girl doing out here right now?" And then out of nowhere, he's abducted by the goons of Special Agent Sonya Falsworth, who I think it's spelt differently, but there's also a James Montgomery Falsworth who's in the in Captain America. He's one of the Howling Commandos, so I'm wondering if maybe she's a descendant of his, because he's also British. All British people are related. And then over a drink, they discuss Gravik, and Sonya says, Then over a drink, they discuss Gravik, and Sonya says Fury knows him personally. He corrects her, telling her he knew him. And Nick offers to work with her, but Sonya just quickly denies him, telling him to get back to his space station, saying he's not ready for this fight. And he leaves, but he successfully plants a bug in her living room on one of her many ornate clocks. Darcy, what do you think Sonya's relationship was with Nick Fury? Did they ever explain that in terms of like who she was to him?
I mean, I feel like she was just someone from his past as spy or agent for the CIA. She's probably like MI6 or something. The MI6 is Nick Fury. Probably it was her equivalency. So that's why they always probably worked together. Or
that would make sense.
Destroying her flat, which was a city. Confused by that. How does she see a city as a flat? But
I think maybe her flat was part of the destruction in No Way Home in the UK. Yep. So maybe that's kind of where she's going off of it, and that wasn't Nick Fury though. But maybe she thinks it was Nick Fury because he would have been reported on the scene, but it was actually Talos, or Talos, or Talos, as they say.
And I guess would that Soren have been Maria Hill in that
yes.
one? You got to think that would still be
yes.
Soren.
Yeah. But you kind of get this sense that they were frenemies in a way. You know what I mean? Like a relationship formed out of duty rather than actual friendship.
100%. Someone you tolerate because you need to work with them type
Absolutely. But she's fantastic in the show. I really... I love her so much, and I can't wait to see more of her in this series. 312 kilometers south of Moscow, a young man approaches a gate, telling the gatekeepers he wants a home in his own skin. And a woman approaches him and asks him to take his natural form, in which he reveals, get this, Darcy, he's a Skrull. She welcomes him to New Skrullos and gives him a drive along with some food from their home planet. And we learn that his name is Beto. They arrive at one of the... Beto. And we learn that his name is Beto. They then arrive at one of the abandoned nuclear plants where we see an entire Skrull community, over 500 strong, complete with kids playing and refugees surviving. The woman enters a room where we see a bunch of humans, sort of strapped to chairs. They're unconscious. They've got beams of energy flowing from their heads. And we see a young Skrull warrior take a human's face and then his mind. So, Darcy, my question here is, what do you think of New Skrullos? And why do you think they want to keep humans alive? They have the face, they have the minds. Why don't they just kill them?
Well, on the first thing about New Skrullos, I mean, I love how they're still trying to make us feel pity for these refugees, because a lot of these Skrulls you see at this compound, or at least, aren't in hiding. They're the ones who are truly seeking somewhere that they can call home, and not going to such extreme means as these warrior factions. So I love seeing the community that they're building there, and it makes you feel for them and understand their plight at least. Shifting over to why they're keeping humans, that's obviously I mean, not obviously, I believe it's because you probably need the human to be alive to retain that memory link. As soon as, if I'm not mistaken, if they die in the comics, or whoever they're replicating dies in the comics, the memories will start fading, and within like 48 hours you won't have any of their memories left. So I'm guessing it's something along those lines. And I mean, what I think is cool about this whole thing is that all these Skrulls or warriors we're seeing, if they're portrayed by great actors like Kingsley Benadir and Emilia Clarke, there's potential for them to return to the MCU in a different
as
role,
humans.
As humans.
Oh wow!
And potentially changed by the events of being held captive by Skrulls. So that's
cool.
Seeing the fact that they're keeping humans alive, it gave me hope that some of these actors might pull a double duty in the MCU.
That's a really cool concept in the sense that that, I mean, it even plays off the idea that we were talking about when Marvel was starting to do the multiverse stuff of they could technically just bring any character back. That doesn't actually matter. But I think that's yet another opportunity for them to creatively work in the idea of bringing a character back would be to say oh yeah, well they died. Yeah, but they were a Skrull. So here's the actual them or something. I don't know. Interesting. I think New Skrullos. Yeah, I think it's. You're right. I think there's a lot of the Skrulls in New Skrullos that have no idea of what Gravik is doing, of what the Council is doing, of what anything that's going on. They're just there to survive. They see this place as a home, and they probably have rules that they've got established. But I don't think any of them think it's for any nefarious reason. It's just to make ensure their safety and survival. And then as far as not destroying them, I didn't even think about the whole aspect of the memory wipe. I was wondering if it also would work in their advantage to if they need to reuse them. Are they reusable? Can a Skrull take a face and a mind, and then if that Skrull dies, could they just do that again with another Skrull and then put them right back in that place?
Again, very possible. Didn't even think of that. I was also thinking that you do a crime or whatever using these shells, as they call them. Again, they treat us like cattle. These Skrulls, we're nothing to them apparently. But so you do the crime or whatever, and then you release the shell back out on the streets, not knowing what happened. And if they said I was taken by a bunch of green aliens, no one would believe them.
You're just insane at that point.
You're an insane person who's going to jail or an insane asylum type thing. So that's the way. That's another reason why they might be keeping them. Again, an easy scapegoat to be this will keep them off our trail for a bit or whatever. I have no idea.
Oh, okay. All right, then back with Fury, Hill, and Talos, we see Sonya confirms that Skrulls have infiltrated major threats from around the world. She's in a sort of a holographic video that we're seeing through the feed of that bug that Nick planted. And she's talking to some British man, telling him that a specialist named Vasily Proprishin, a former Chechen rebel who owns a high-end gallery in the city center, has the ability to restore radioactivity to bombs. The man this British guy demands she sends in a raid, and she refuses. Nick walks in munching on some freshly popped popcorn, which made me want popcorn when I was watching this episode. Suggests that they beat Sonya to the specialist, as Sonya will destroy any and everyone who's even heard the name Gravik. Nick reminds Talos that Gravik knows that mercy is a weakness, and it's time to prove him wrong. So Darcy, who do you think this British guy that Sonya is talking to here is? Is this someone of note, or is this just someone higher up in MI6, or who do you think this guy is?
I mean, it could be someone higher up in MI6, or like we saw earlier with Don Cheadle talking to the president, it could be maybe the Prime Minister of England or something. Possibly. I mean, think about who Nick Fury would answer to in America, and then trying to equate that over to Sonya's equivalent in the UK.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting, easy answer. I feel like there's something more to it.
You give me. Let me see what your little brain.
Well, let's just put it this
please.
way. I think that absolutely is Tony Stark. No, no. I think.
Oh, you got to
I think.
Damn it! I didn't want to give you that.
I think that they kind of hide his face a little bit, though. You know, like, why would they do that if this was just a nothing or no name character? And I'm not saying this absolutely is a character that we know. I'm just wondering if they're hiding that as a reveal for later on. I don't know. It just seems like he's important because Sonya is, you know, I think she seems like as badass of a character as Nick Fury, and Nick Fury doesn't answer to no one. So I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong on that. But back at the compound, Gravik's second in command, named Pagan, informs Gravik. It might be Pagan. Whatever. Names are interesting with this series. Pagan informs Gravik that Fury is in town, but that he shouldn't worry about it because they're the inner circle. Nobody else is. You know, you don't have to worry about it. And Gravik tells him that he isn't the cause, and that the cause is home. You know, he's like, I'm not the cause. The cause is home. Telling Pagan, we go tomorrow and we don't stop until this place is ours. The woman from earlier is then tasked with buying 2 bags from Patrician, and then to get them to Moscow's safe house, intact and undisturbed. Was it just me, Darcy, or was there some sort of like that conversation between Pagan and Gravik was really interesting to me because it felt like it was being driven, like Pagan's drive felt like it was more personal, like driven by love. And I don't mean like a sexual love or like an intimate love with Gravik, but just some sort of like almost in the way that like he's seeing him like the next big thing. Like he sees him as like almost
he's
like a god, or
him.
He's an idol.
Oh, yeah.
Did you get that as well?
Yeah, 100%. Like the fact that he had to be corrected that, you know, the cause is more than just what Gravik stands for. It's for the whole, you know, race of Skrulls. Mm-hmm. I think that goes to show that the Gravik is incredibly charismatic and has swayed all these people to his side, and that might come back to bite him because maybe people don't want him to go that far. Maybe people want to keep him safe before, you know, not make the wrong enemies in the Avengers or Captain Marvel because they've seen what she can do. I don't know. It's really interesting to see like this relationship develop, I guess, or where it stands as we are dropped into this conflict.
Yeah. It's like, and that's the thing. It's like Pagan. It's going to be interesting to see like how far some of these characters will go for Gravik, because you know, as Justin discussed with you know, Kingsley Ben-Adir in an interview that he did with him, which you can check out now on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Geekcentric. You know, Kingsley mentions how Gravik is this character that will literally doesn't care about anything but getting the job done, and might even sacrifice himself. And so it'll be interesting to sort of see, like, if those are the lengths that Gravik will go to, the people that are working just under him or just, you know, with him, are they willing to go to those same lengths for him, or for, you know, this purpose of theirs? I thought it was interesting that you know, I keep saying the woman, by the way, listeners, just because we haven't gotten to that part of the episode of who the character's name is. But this woman
took me a second to realize who you were talking about.
Yeah,
when you said the woman that second time, like
Amelia Clark. Let's just say her character in this scene. I love. She's reading a book, and it's called Understanding the Human Mind, and I'm just like, yeah, like that's dope. Like there, you know, she's consistently trying to become, you know, understand humanity even further, even though she's lived there for so long. All right, let's keep going here. Fury and Talos manage to get to Patrician just late enough to have to question him, saying they want some damn good answers. After lying twice to Nick Fury, Talos grabs Patrician and calls him out for being a Skrull, and then he gets thrown in, you know, through a column. Fury attempts multiple times to take out Patrician, but Talos yells at him, saying, "This is his fight. Stand down." Until the fight gets a little too out of hand. and Nick pops Patrician twice through the back, killing him instantly. Talos, looking very defeated and disappointed, refuses Nick's hand when he offers to help him up. Darcy, let's get into this. Why do you think Talos was so upset at Fury for killing their attacker?
Well, because clearly Talos still doesn't want to fight his own people. He knows what war did to his people in the past and doesn't want to go down those same steps, seeing people die for pointless causes and reasons. So I feel like, again, he doesn't want to hurt his own people, but that might have to change if he wants to, make Earth a home and live in peace with the humans. So yeah, he's definitely at odds with himself right now, trying to figure out where he stands in relation to his people.
Yeah, because I think, absolutely, like there's been so much Skrull blood dropped already, and they've lost so many of their people. So he's trying to get out of this without dropping any blood, whether it be human or Skrull. But I think that line that Nick says to him earlier in the episode of like, Gravik knows that your weakness is mercy. You're absolutely right. Talos needs to change that, because it's only going to get the people around him that he cares about killed. And I think it'll be interesting to sort of see his character arc throughout this and how far he sort of goes. And I'm also really interested with Talos as well. And I know this is now me being the Charlie Day meme of the conspiracy board, but I just feel like, I don't know, like maybe Talos is upset that Patrician died. Maybe they knew each other. Yeah, at some point. I don't know. Because Patrician does say Talos, like he's like, he knows his name. So like they must have known each other. So like, is Talos involved with what's going on with Gravik?
Talos was the direct liaison with Nick Fury. So
right.
I feel like
he was on the council.
Okay. He's probably widely known in the Skrull community boards or whatever, being like, oh, this guy's why we're here type thing.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Patrician probably at his Skrull house, he's got a dartboard with Talos's actual Skrull face.
2 X's drawn through
the eyes. Yeah, for sure. And I loved in this scene where he's sitting on, I can't remember which king it was, but King something the fourth, King Henry or whatever. And then Nick's like, do you have more thrones in
those comfy chairs?
Comfy chairs. So good. That Nick Fury comedy is just fantastic. Okay, so meanwhile, Maria is tailing the young woman, Emilia Clarke, who bought the bombs. And don't worry, after this we won't have to say that anymore. And reports back to Fury and Talos. And she follows her down an alleyway into an underground train tunnel, and then is immediately attacked and taken down. Talos continues to chase this woman afterwards, and it even shoots at her, saying that it's her last warning. She comes down the ladder and reveals that she, get this, Darcy, is Gaia, Talos' daughter.
Gasp.
And what? And he informs her that her mother has died, and because of the people that she works for. He begs her to give him the bomb, and she refuses, pushing him away, and then proceeds to mourn the loss of her mom on her own. So, Darcy, they kind of quickly rush through it in this scene. But how do you think Soren died?
I mean, I feel like the fact that when we first see Talos in this episode, he's chasing down another Skrull. I feel like he and his wife probably be, doing whatever they could to get what information they could take to Nick so that he could come back and help them or something like that. And they went too deep and she got found out or whatever. I don't know. All I know is that, this is an incredibly, heartbreaking way for someone to find out that their mother's gone, and that they might have had a connection to how she died or something like that. We mentioned that in our spoiler free how all the cast was killing it, and I feel like this is one of the episode standout moments for Emilia Clarke, and I can't wait to see her character grow, because when she's breaking down in that garage afterwards, you really feel it. Also, talking about this little fight scene or whatever, didn't they say to get the bags to them undisturbed because they're bombs? And Yeah, that fight scene just seemed a bit rough to, handle bombs while fighting. I have no idea what's going on there, but some red flags are raised, because if they're really bombs, I feel like one of them would have gone off.
Right? It looked pretty rough. I mean, Maria Hill definitely was pretty roughed up in the fight. We see her with it looks like her nose is almost like broken. But no, I think it's that fight scene, as quick as it was, I would have loved to have seen a little bit more. I think it was a little too dark, but Emilia Clarke, seeing her mourn at the moment she could, you know what I mean? Like, she gets away from them, she keeps it all intact, and the moment that she knows that she's in the clear, she breaks down. And yeah, absolutely, it's super rough to see. I'm just wondering though, if maybe was Soren in on something, and Talos is the one that had to take her out. Like, how nuts would that be? Like, he still has to take her out, but only because she's working for Gravik or something. I don't know. I'm just saying.
We're one episode in, and you have so many different theories.
So many theories.
I don't know which one I want to believe in.
What I'm doing, Darcy, is I'm just laying out a blanket of theories so that if any of them hit, I can just be like, see, guys, I was so freaking right. All right. Back with Fury, we see him enter a bar, and he's looking in a mirror, and he's told by a stranger that he'll never be the man that he once was. And confused by this, he requests a drink and then sits down with Hill as they play chess. And she's clearly mad at him for leaving, and even more upset that it seems like he's lying about why he left. She asks why he came back, and he says that he owes it to Talos, to which she responds with, "Are you sure you're not talking about someone else?" She says the Fury she knew was always 3 steps ahead. She tells him that he's not ready, he was never the same after the blip, and to check his footing, otherwise someone is going to get hurt. We then see Fury remembering the moment he experienced the blip. The foreshadowing in this scene, Darcy, was great. We get a different angled look at the moment that Nick experiences the blip, which, he refers to his experience from that as a crisis of faith, and the reason that he went to space. But then he mentions the reason he came back was because it followed him up there. So with that said, I want to try and see if we can clarify this, or if you have any insight into this. Do you think this series takes place before or after the events of the upcoming The Marvels later this year?
I had never even thought to think about that. I guess I don't know. It'd be interesting to see that The Marvels plays into that, but I don't know how that would happen. Again, I feel like it was just the crisis of faith was the fact that he does everything in his power, like going so far as to put a super team together to prevent these threats, and the thing that gets him was something that he can never prevent or predict at all. I feel like that was kind of the thing. Is like he's so used to being in control of everything and always having a solution, but when it came down to it, he couldn't do anything, and there was no solution. So I feel like that was more the crisis of faith, and he realized that he couldn't run away from it forever, maybe, that he's just got to face it and do the best he can. I don't know. It's, again, this is a broken man, basically. It's a very different Nick Fury than what we're used to seeing. Yeah,
it's interesting because that you mentioned that too, because I think in a sort of an introspective way, or an extrapensive way. I don't know if that's the word.
Existential.
In a way, it does mirror, I'm sure, what a lot of people who are maybe in charge of the general safety for the human populace, like doctors, probably felt about the COVID-19 and the pandemic. And it's like one of those situations where there are people that are probably in this world that feel like they maybe not so much in the year of 2023, but at some point felt like, hey, we've got this figured out, and then we're just slapped with this thing that is so immediately uncontrollable and unforeseeable. That's interesting. That's an intriguing sort of way to look at it, and way to look at Nick Fury's character in terms of that comparison. Yeah, man, it is one of those things where it's interesting to sort of see this conversation between the two of them, and it's really upsetting knowing that it's kind of like their last conversation.
It's heartbreaking.
Yeah,
really. Like, again, they they really didn't give Colby Smulders much to work with up until, this point. We get so much character from her in this one scene, and they take her away from us, and it's so sad.
Let's talk about that. After Gaia's request to postpone the strike is denied, she meets with her father to tell him that the 3 bombs will be marked, will be in bags that are marked with infrared spray. The next morning, at Voseveniev Square. That's how I'm going to say that. We see Talos, Hill, and Fury all using glasses to see the infrared spray. I'm like, oh, they all have fancy glasses now. They keep an eyeful watch, but unfortunately they miss the handoff. And as they split up to pursue the bomb carriers, they fail to get through the crowds. And Nick gets distracted by that little girl with the ball that he saw earlier in the episode. He follows her as she shapeshifts into the guy from the bar. Whoa. And then the woman who was making out as well, and then finally into Gravik. And as he turns around, boom, all 3 bombs go off, inciting chaos throughout the square. Nick pursues Gravik, but gets lost in the shuffle. Maria finds Nick, but then he shoots her. And as Nick sees himself standing over her, another bomb goes off, and Gravik retreats. The real Nick Fury rushes to Maria, and as he holds her for one last time, she whimpers, "It was you." And Fury replies, "Not me." And the camera pulls away as Maria Hill is dead. And that is the end of the first episode of Secret Invasion. Before we get to, if we have any additional speculation or theories and our final thoughts on the episode, how do you feel about the death of Maria Hill? And is she actually dead? There's a lot of conversation going on. I think I have the answer for that. I think you do too. But let's talk about this. The death of Maria Hill. Rest in peace.
Again, I feel like this is an actual death. I don't know if that was definitely Maria Hill, because the way that we have seen other Skrulls pass in this episode alone is that shortly after death they shift back.
Yeah, and
we stayed on that body panning out for long enough to know that if she was dead, she would have shifted back. So I feel like that truly was Maria Hill, and I still don't know how I feel about it.
Yeah,
to tell you the truth, the character has so many cool storylines in the comics, and again, the fact that we barely scratch the surface of that in the MCU, it's sad, very sad.
It's so upsetting. And Colby Smulders, I think the last time we saw her was Tony Stark's funeral, technically, right? Because even though I guess Colby Smulders, we saw her in No Way Home, but that was Soren, that wasn't her.
That wasn't Maria Hill, yeah,
right. And so it's just so upsetting. And I think the most sort of horrific part is when she says, "It was you," and so part of me thinks like that's really sad and upsetting, because it's like she thinks Nick Fury betrayed her in her final moments. But then another part of me is like, is she trying to warn him, like, hey, there's another Skrull out there that's that's trying to be you? I don't know. It was really sad.
Yeah.
I think the other thing too is she does bleed real blood. You made me bleed my own blood. She bleeds red. And not,
there was a lot of it,
blue or purple. I think Skrulls bleed normally.
Yeah.
So yeah, but my only thought on this, Darcy, is that Nick also faked his own death, right? So I could totally see the Marvel writers writing something of like a little joke of that's for faking your own death, or something, like she's getting back at Nick, not just for the purpose of the joke, but to motivate him to get back to being the real Nick Fury, to come back.
Like Coulson did.
Like
right? The Coulson death, yeah.
I'm just saying, dude.
It'd be cool. I mean, it would be, one way to pull one over on Nick Fury is to take yourself out of the game, and that way, when you come back, you're the only person you can trust, because they would never imitate a dead woman.
Right.
Like, that's someone they would never take the position of, because they all saw her die.
Yeah.
So maybe that's the route they're going. I think that would be really cool.
Right. Because she could have been wearing one of those like body packs or something, and then like it was fake blood, because like he wouldn't
Nick
have time
was
to
rushed away very quickly.
Yeah. He doesn't have time to like really look at it to make sure she's dead. I'm just saying, dude. There's
a possibility.
Dude.
It's, the thing is, we're talking about comic book characters,
right?
And the great thing about comic books is no one stays dead forever, unless you're Gwen Stacy.
That's
and
it.
Even then, she's come back from another universe. So,
oh my goodness. Okay. Yeah. I really hope she's not dead, because I love her. Now let's get to there's one last thing I want to talk about before we just wrap up with our final thoughts on the episode and our score for this episode. Which is a prediction segment, which I couldn't come up with a creative name in time, so I'm just calling it Skrull Secrets. So
I'm not whispering. If that's what, like,
you have to whisper.
Not that from
Darcy.
Nope.
So Darcy, do you have any Skrull secrets?
Oh yes, I guess my one secret. I'm not whispering. No, I'm not whispering. You're not getting that. The one secret I would have, again, relates to the fact that, Gaia's whole quest to get those bombs was meant to keep them undisturbed, and then they were very much disturbed during that chase scene.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that when she asked to call it off, Pagan says, "No, we have the bait now." I feel like this was all just a plan. Like, I feel like Gravik knows Gaia has this weakness in her because she's Talos' daughter and might, leak information or whatever, and that information is what's going to get Nick Fury back where he wants him, type thing. Like, I'm wondering if this was all part of Gravik's plan, because again, Gaia seems to be very, very iffy on whether or not she's believing in the cause or not, especially after learning of her mother's death. So
is this is it the idea that she's not on the inner circle with Gravik, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, she's just and that makes sense too, because Pagan, Gaia, all these people are probably just pawns
to Gravik.
I
don't think he sees people as people. Like, he sees them as tools and devices. Again, if he has his personal connection to Nick Fury, maybe a lot of Nick Fury's traits will be in him as well. And Nick Fury sees people as tools. I mean, that's why he put the Avengers together, is to kind of cover all the bases in terms of these supernatural threats or whatever.
Interesting. Okay, yeah, I like that. That's a good one, and I think it's something that I think will actually get answered by the end of the series. I have a secret that I don't think will be, or at least I would be so happy if they did. But Valentina Allegra de Fontaine,
there we go,
is her name. I think we saw in Wakanda Forever, her relationship to Everett Ross. And I think with Everett Ross being in this episode, it made me start, thinking, okay, let's look at the rest of the MCU. Who's a Skrull? Val absolutely is a Skrull. And I think, with Sonya saying that Skrulls have made their way into positions of power all over the world, I think the Skrulls would want to have a way to defend against Earth's mightiest heroes. And I think this series, focusing on Nick Fury, a character who's assembled a team of heroes, I think it would be a really interesting twist on that, to have a character like Val doing the same thing with the Thunderbolts, right? And to kind of give the Thunderbolts their own sort of movie, because we know they're getting a movie. I think that Val is a Skrull, but maybe it's not fully revealed. Maybe they hint at it in this series, because I don't know if they'd want to have just us know that Val's a Skrull going into Thunderbolts. But in my mind, it's just another level of security for the Skrulls, that they also have their own superhero team. Am I way off on this? What do you think?
I don't know. I feel like that was just at the end of Wakanda Forever there. That was the legitimate Everett Ross, and the Skrull Ross had nothing to do with that. Maybe because Everett was off the board for so long, they thought they could use him as position. Although Everett Ross was I have no idea.
Right?
That Skrull was too connected. The fact that he called for an extraction from Maria Hill.
Yeah. I don't know.
Never thought about that.
What if those two Skrulls, they're both Skrulls, and they were doing some Skrull banging, I'm sure that's what they call it. Let's get to
You have too many theories that could be possible, and my head hurts.
You know what it is? It's just the fact that this series, I think, realistically, they can do so much with it, and that's what makes it so intriguing. But let's get to our final thoughts and overall impressions of this first episode, and our final score, which we're going to be rating on a scale of 1 to 5 Skrull sky plants, also known as Santo Milica, is what Talos, I think, says. Darcy, what were your final thoughts for this episode?
Well, again, I think this is an incredible introduction to what I hope will be a gripping thrill ride through the secret invasion of the Skrulls, because they're setting up so much potential here, and they are really driving home the premise of trust no one. Your best friend could be a Skrull or someone who will stab you in the back, and I love how they're just building upon that with each scene in this episode, and you really don't know what to believe by the end of it. And I can't wait to see where it goes, because this is probably the most gripping first episode of an MCU Disney Plus show to date, in my opinion, because so many things are posed and the threat is so clearly laid out that it's just going to be a wild ride to get to that finish line, and I can't wait. So I'll be giving this one 5 out of 5 Skrull sky plants, because this does an incredible job of getting me hyped for this series, and like I said, I literally cannot wait for more.
Jeez, you've given it a high score. You're high on that Santo Milica right now, I think.
I don't know if it's that type of plant.
It could
I would try it if it was.
You'd try it if it was. I think this first episode is a decent start to the series. I think it moves really quickly in ways that I appreciated. I think there's a little bit of it that's a bit messy at times, but I get it. As I said, we're getting dropped into this ongoing situation like Nick Fury himself. It's to put us in his shoes just as much. And I think it moves at a breakneck speed that doesn't really feel like a normal episode 1. I think it very much feels like a part 1 of 2, but I will give them kudos for killing Maria Hill, if it actually was Maria Hill. I think it's a very striking and shocking MCU death that I wasn't anticipating at all, and I think, between the really strong opening and the really upsetting ending, I think this did a pretty good job of getting us into the world of Secret Invasion, and I hope that they can slow it down just a little bit so we can really get our footing going forward. But I think this is an interesting collection of characters that we get to follow on this show, because we're not just following superheroes. We're following Nick Fury. We're following, Talos, and it's kind of sticking to the spy espionage and not so much the characters that could just fly away at any time if they wanted to or what have you. I can't wait to see how this all plays out into the larger MCU. I think it's going to be really interesting. And as we were kind of talking about earlier, does this take place before the Marvels? Is it after the Marvels? Is it Nick Fury? Who is it? What is it's going to be really intriguing to sort of get these moments and these characters sort of cemented down in the canon, because I think it'll I think it'll make for a really exciting, refreshing, move forward for the MCU, which we need at this point, because this series, this saga is just so big at this point. I'm going to give this premiere episode of Secret Invasion, I was going to give it a 3.5, Darcy, believe it or not, but then we got to the ending, and I was so shocked that my 3.5 shape-shifted into a 4 Skrull sky plants. That is it for this week's episode of Watch Club for Marvel's Secret Invasion. We hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, make sure to subscribe to us wherever you like to listen to podcasts, if you haven't already. And if you want to write into the show with your thoughts or predictions on the shows we cover in Watch Club, let me just shift my vocal cords into Darcy's so that I can let you know how you could reach us. But you're going to think it's him, but it's me. Here we go. Yeah,
it's totally still Nate right now. It's Nate doing this, but we are Geekcentric. Or sorry, you can reach us at wearegeekcentric@gmail.com. That's wearegeekcentric@gmail.com. Or, Darcy, you take this one. Okay, fine. I guess I will. They can reach us on Instagram at wearegeekcentric, or on Twitter at geekcentricyt. Man, your impression of me is really good.
Listen, dude, I've been believe it or not, I've actually shapeshifted into you a lot of times over the past few years of us knowing each other. So I apologize for that. Let me know if you get anything in the mail. But keep in mind, I've just been ordering a bunch of stuff as you.
Right.
A lot of collectibles. Keep in mind, we have a ton of other episodes covering the latest and greatest shows and movies out now, including our recent spoiler-free reviews for The Flash, Wes Anderson's Asteroid City, Elemental, Transformers: Rise of the Beast, and Spider-Man: Across the Spider-Verse. We also have a spoiler-filled discussion out for that movie as well. Plus, we have a ton of great interviews out now, like our most recent interview with Kingsley Ben-Adir and Ali Selim, the director of this very episode. And we've also got some upcoming interviews with some of the cast from Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. So definitely subscribe, click the bell, make sure you're subscribed to everything here on YouTube, or here on podcast services. And also, we have a Discord that's opened up right now, and we have a spoiler-filled channel for Marvel's Secret Invasion. So if you want to write in with your thoughts, you can also jump in there, and you can join that Discord by clicking the link in our show notes. Maybe give us a theory or two that is so mind-blowing that we'll all be shape-shifting back into our natural form, and we might even talk about it on this Watch Club. So, Darcy, thank you so much for joining me for this Watch Club. And as we say,
Scroll you later.